And my mind rebels at stagnation. Give me what? Give me problems. You may give me the most abstruse cryptogram. Then I'm in my own proper element. I am merely a brain, the rest nothing more than an appendix. I abhor this dull routine of existence. Now I wonder, have any of you ever gazed from your windows at night, observed the yellow fog swirling about the dun-colored rooftops? Was there ever anything quite so mundane, so prosaic, so tedious? At times like these, how I yearn for another Ripper. With what absolute ease and impunity could he leap from the fog, slake his bloodlust, return from whence he had come. Scotland Yard would be none the wiser. All crime these days is commonplace. Life itself commonplace. And that is why I've invented my own profession. I am the last of the highest court of appeal, the world's only unofficial consulting detective. Now you understand, whenever those worthies of Scotland Yard, Lestrade, Gregson, Athelney Jones, they find themselves out of their depths, which incidentally is their customary state. Of course, they come to me here in Baker Street. They lay before me the facts. I provide them with the solutions. But as I say, life is commonplace. And nothing save that which is in itself commonplace has any role to play here in this humdrum world. You may wonder where friend Watson is this night. Oh, he has forsaken me. Marriage. Although I wonder, is marital bliss an oxymoron? Now, from my point of view, women, you understand, never are to be entirely trusted. They are illogical, absolute anathema to the mind of a detective. Although now you are here, it would be a wasted opportunity, would it not, if I were not to share with you a curious narrative connected to the time Watson found himself a wife for the first time. I mean to say the affair of the great Agra Treasure. Miss Mary Morstan, the name of our client. Now, she had been recommended to me by her employer, Mrs. Cecil Forrester. I had been able to do Mrs. Forrester a good turn, a trifling domestic affair of some years previously. And so Miss Morstan had come to me. And the mystery itself, I found, promised to be an interesting affair. Would at least keep the tedium at bay for a little while. Now, Mary Morstan told me that her father, Captain Morstan, was attached to the 34th Bombay Infantry. His wife, Miss Morstan's mother, had died. Therefore, Miss Morstan herself had been sent back to England when she was 12 years of age. She had not seen her father since. However, upon the 3rd of December, which is to say nearly 10 years previously, she had received word from this Captain Morstan that he was returning to England. He had received 12 months' leave. Furthermore, he was putting up at Langham's Hotel Naturally, Miss Morstan was agog with excitement. However, Captain Morstan never arrived, and when, upon the following day, she called at Langham's Hotel, inquiring of the staff where Captain Morstan was, they were at a loss. He was nowhere to be seen. Oh, his trunks were there, a few books, bric-a-brac, but of the man himself, nothing. Now, the only individual with whom Morstan was on friendly terms was a Major Sholto, who then retired. Formerly, they had both been attached to the same military. However, Sholto confirmed that he was unaware even that his erstwhile companion was in London. And so there the matter remained, a mystery. But curious events were soon to present themselves 4 years later. To be exact, upon the 4th of May, 1882, Miss Morstan's attention was brought to a newspaper advertisement asking for the address of Miss Mary Morstan. It said that she was a wronged woman, that furthermore, this wrong, it was felt, needed to be rectified. Shortly thereafter, having given her address, she received through the post a small cardboard box containing a lustrous pearl. And every year since then, always upon the same date, May the 4th, Miss Morstan said she had received the same, a pearl. Again, the identity of this benefactor never was made known. And during all of those years still, the precise whereabouts of Captain Morstan remained an enigma. Now, the reason why Miss Morstan had brought herself here to Baker Street was apropos another notice in the newspaper. Again, it noted how Miss Morstan was a wronged woman, dreadfully so, and that how there was some guardian angel who wished to make amends for the injustices that had been done to her. Furthermore, that she was to make her way to the Lyceum Theatre that same night. The third pillar from the left outside, she was allowed to bring two friends with her for safety's sake. However, on no account whatsoever were there to be policemen. If they were, all would be lost. Well, her employer, Mrs. Cecil Forrester, recommended she come to me. Now you understand, even by that time, the friend Watson was absolutely smitten with Miss Morstan. But then that tells you everything you need to know about Watson, does it not? Very well, I accepted Miss Morstan's case there and then. I told her to return here to my rooms in Baker Street at 6 o'clock that evening. Now, that afternoon, I occupied myself. The old newspapers of the Times. Now, regarding this Major Sholto, you will recollect that he had been an erstwhile colleague of Captain Morstan. I discovered that Major Sholto had died. Died at the end of April, 1882. Curious, is it not? Or do you not understand? Major Sholto and Captain Morstan, both serving in the same infantry, both overseas. Sholto dies. And before the week is out, Miss Morstan then receives a written communication requesting her address, and then the first of several pearls sent to her. But she is termed a wronged woman. Does it not then suggest to you, as it did to me, these disparate elements all are intertwined? Morstan, Sholto, the pearl, Indeed, that same correspondence advising her to take herself to the Lyceum Theatre that same night. And Miss Morstan returned here to my rooms at Baker Street, promptly at 6. Now we hailed a hansom that took friend Watson, myself, and Miss Morstan to the Lyceum. We alighted. We were waiting there by the third pillar, when from behind the same appeared a smartly dressed gentleman, evidently a groom. Upon assuring him that neither Watson nor myself was an officer of the official police force, snapped his fingers. Another carriage appeared. And so we embarked upon our mysterious errand. We knew not where we were going, nor for what reason. Oh, surely mystery is better than tedium. Now, Mary Morstan had brought something else with her that day. She had been going through her late father's papers, and then she had found a curious diagram. Evidently, it had been looked after, neatly pressed, neatly folded, as though it had been stored within a pocketbook, and therefore the document must be of some small interest. It appeared to depict a plan of some large building, a fort, perhaps. And curious to say, written neatly in ink, the side of the paper, strange words, of the sign of the four, and then 4 names: Jonathan Small, Dost Akbar, Abdullah Khan, Mohammed Singh. Oh, whilst Watson made cow eyes at Miss Morstan, I allowed them to get on with it. I occupied my own mind with determining what direction precisely we were heading in, certainly across the river, across the Vauxhall Bridge. Now, you understand, the blinds to the carriage were closed. However, I was able to ascertain to an extent where we were going. Eventually into the desolate, windswept outer suburbs. A row of rather forlorn-looking 2-storied villas. And then the coach came to a halt. The doors opened and we stepped without. We were directed to one particular building. We knocked upon the door, we pulled at the bell, and then the owner of said dwelling place answered us and bade us be welcome. This was the first time we had made the acquaintance of Mr. Thaddeus Sholto himself. Yeah, Mr. Thaddeus Sholto, at your service. Please come in, come in. What do you think of my humble abode? A little oasis in the howling desert of South London. I hope you don't mind the sweet aroma of tobacco. It is my only weakness. Well, you are Miss Morstan, I understand. Yes, and yeah, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, yes. Oh, and a doctor. Oh, a doctor, Dr. Watson, yes. I wonder, do you have your stethoscope with you, Doctor, my valves? I am so sorely troubled by my valves. The aortic, I feel, is quite satisfactory, but the mitral valve, the heart, you understand, I'm not a well man. Well, I ought to abstain from tobacco, but I need some joy in this otherwise barren existence. I do what I can here. This is oriental refuge, but my heart, my valves. It is a shame, Miss Morstan, that your Father did not pay more attention to his heart, else he may have been alive still to this day. Oh, forgive me, Miss Morstan, I forget you. You are not fully aware that he sadly is no longer with us. Yes. You understand. You, Mr. Holmes, the doctor, Miss Morstan. Yeah, my twin brother, Bartholomew. Formerly, we all lived together with my father, Major John Sholto. We understand he had retired from the army, had returned here to England. Quite a wealthy man, sum of money. Although he never did elaborate at the time as to how that came into his possession. He bought a place, Pondicherry Lodge. I will take you there later. We must be combined, you understand. My brother Bartholomew is a dreadful man, his temper. He will always berate me, but with all of us combined against him, Mr. Holmes, I felt certain that brother Bartholomew could not possibly prevail. Pondicherry Lodge, Norwood, our father, brother Bartholomew, and myself. I remember my father. He always seemed to have something hanging over his head. A haunted man, it seemed to me, although I know not why. He was always horrified at the sight of individuals with one wooden leg. Once, a gentleman with a wooden leg was seen in the vicinity. Our father shot at him with his revolver. A dreadful scandal. The poor gentleman was a harmless tradesman. We had to pay him a sum of money to keep it amongst ourselves. I remember our father received a letter from India. He went downhill from there. Yeah, I mean to say it was around the year 1882. He never divulged what was in the letter. He consigned it to the flames immediately, but he took to his bed shortly thereafter and became even more worried about wooden-legged men. Eventually, Brother Bartholomew and I could do nothing as our dear father's condition deteriorated rapidly. He took to his bed. Yeah, our father, that is, not Brother Bartholomew. My brother and I were either side of him. It was then our father chose to unburden himself, to tell us the secret as to where he had obtained his wealth. Come closer, my son. This has been weighing upon my conscience for years now. My greed has brought me to this. I tell you both now, Bartholomew and Thaddeus, as a warning to avoid the sins that I have fallen prey to. Our wealth, a sum of treasure found back in India. There were complications. I brought it back here to England, Fort Pondicherry Lodge. I thought my past never would catch up with me. I was wrong. I remember December in the year 78. Another old soldier, Captain Arthur Morstan, returned to England. He knew about the treasure also. He was entitled to a share of the treasure. He and 4 others. But I kept it all to myself. Greed, you understand. Morstan's heart always was weak. We exchanged words. We argued, a heated altercation. Suddenly, he clutched at his side. His heart, I knew. He fell. He struck his head upon the corner of the chest that contained the treasure. My treasure. It's ought to have been his. It was an accident. In no way at all could I have been blamed. I was perplexed as to what I ought to do. I was kneeling beside the body. When I looked up, there was my servant looking at me, smiling. Do not worry, he said. If we act now, no one need suspect a thing. Why, I told him that I was not responsible. I did not kill him. If my own servant even did not believe me, what hope had I of convincing members of a jury? So the course was set. My servant and I disposed of Morstan's body. You need not know where or how. And I realize his daughter, Miss Mary Morstan, deserves at least some of that treasure. At least my greed has forbade me. Bartholomew, Thaddeus, you see over there that chaplet inlaid with pearls. You will send to one of these pearls, one, to Miss Morstan, by way of recompense. But not until I am gone. I may yet really. We don't wish to give these things away, do we? I concealed the treasure. It is hidden away. No one knows where. This is the reason why I have summoned you both. Bartholomew, Thaddeus, the Agra Treasure I have hidden away in Well, of course, we were horrified. Brother Bartholomew and I returned, and there was a malevolent-looking face, bearded man peering in at us from the flower bed. I rushed outside. I could see no trace of him, you see it. There was a circular imprint in the soil, here and there again. It is as though the individual had vanished into the darkness. When I returned, he cried. Poor father's heart had burst. He was dead already, the fright. Although Brother Bartholomew was furious that he had not lived long enough in which to inform us where the treasure was hidden. The following day, we happened to come back into this room, the bedroom where our father had breathed his last. His papers were strewn about the room, and there was something pinned to him, a piece of paper, a card, the sign of the four crosses, the arms interlocking, and then four names: Jonathan Small, Muhammad Singh, Dost Akbar, Abdullah Khan. Brother Bartholomew and I searched for that treasure. Oh, good heavens, how we searched. It was nowhere to be seen. When it came to the business of the pearl, of recompense for Miss Morstan, I'm afraid Brother Bartholomew and I had an exchange of words. He is greedy. He shares our late father's besetting fault. Whereas I have more than enough money. I do not see why it should not be shared. And Miss Morstan, you will appreciate. At no point have I ever been desirous of keeping father's treasure to ourselves. It is only fair, it is only proper that you have your late father's share of the wealth. That is why I sent for you. That is why I placed the advertisement 7 years ago, requesting your address. You will take a note of this, Mr. Holmes, will you not? My vows. The reason why you are here now, the gentleman and Miss Morstan, just yesterday, Brother Bartholomew sent word. He has found the treasure. Wonderfully ingenious. Well, you understand, after all of this time, he realized there was a discrepancy, you understand. He ascertained the height of Pondicherry Lodge, some 74 feet, and then he ascertained the respective heights of the rooms within. By no stretch of the imagination, no matter what he did, could he make this final figure arrive at any sum higher than 70 feet. Therefore, there was a missing 4 feet. A chamber. That would be where the treasure was concealed, and evidently would need to be at the top of the house in the garret space. And that is why Brother Bartholomew wrote to me yesterday, communicating with me. He had found the treasure. He had found it up there in the attic space. He had so cleverly found it, and that is why now I decided that I will not go alone. That is why I have summoned you, Miss Morstan, and you gentlemen. Brother Bartholomew would not dream of making a stand against our combined force. But I'm not a well man, Doctor, my valves. The aortic is quite adequate, but the others I am not entirely certain. I am something of a valetudinarian, I know, but it's my valves. And so, please, I suggest that now we take our leave. I must wrap up warmly, the night is cold. And then we will travel to Pondicherry Lodge, and together we will state our case. And there is no way whatsoever Brother Bartholomew will be able to deny us what is rightfully Miss Morstan. Come, gentlemen, and Miss Morstan, time waits for no one. I believe it was 7 o'clock in the evening when finally we arrived at Pondicherry Lodge. However, our exit was almost assured before we had begun. We were about to be sent away with a flea in our ear. There was a guard waiting on duty. He had had strict orders from his master, Mr. Bartholomew Sholto, to admit no one other than Brother Thaddeus. However, I thought I'd seen that face before. McMurdo? Why, surely it is McMurdo. The fighter.
Oh, blimey, Mr. Owen, why do you say it was you, eh? Yeah, and if you'd have given me that straight right up under the uppercut like you'd done 4 years ago, I'd have known you immediately. me and Mr. Holmes, we fought 3 rounds 4 years ago at the boxing club. I'll tell you what, if you turn to the fancy, Mr. Holmes, when you had it done, instead of wasting your time with all this detection malarkey, well, we'd have made a great name for yourself, eh? Well, you ought to have said, no, it's all right, Mr. Sholto. Any friend of Mr. Holmes is a friend of ours indeed. Now, in you come, all of you.
So we made our way up to the front door of Pondicherry Lodge. The housekeeper was in some strait of distress. She had harbored grave fears regarding her master, Bartholomew Sholto. She had not seen him all day. He had locked himself inside his room, and there was no answer to her repeated knocks upon the door. Now, Watson suggested that Miss Morstan stay with the housekeeper. Brother Bartholomew also needed to be found, and so friend Watson and I went up the winding stairwell, closer and closer toward the uppermost reaches of this house. The house itself was in darkness, and that impressed itself upon Thaddeus Sholto as being strange. The moonlight bathed the place in an eerie radiance that lent a macabre feel to what was already a strange evening. The door itself was locked. The key had been turned, however, by peering through the keyhole, one was able to glimpse at least a small portion of what lay within. Ah! It was a macabre scene indeed. The face was illumined by the moonlight, and the rest surrounding it in shadow, as though it floated in midair. It was Thaddeus Sholto himself. And then I remembered, of course, Brother Bartholomew was a twin. Death rictus upon his face. Fred Watson and I leant our shoulders to the door. Finally, we forced it open to espy the scene within. There, protruding from the neck of the corpse, a long, dark spine of a thorn. Careful, Watson! Unless I'm much mistaken, which I rarely am, I would say that is highly poisonous. And we looked around. It was evident the treasure had been made away with. Thaddeus Sholto already had informed us that this is where he had last seen the same. Yet surely, to abscond with the treasure from this high attic space was more than one person would be able to accomplish. Therefore, would it not be stretching the realms of possibility to suggest he had an accomplice? The window displayed signs. There in the mold of the windowsill, there was a definite impress of a footprint. And there, a circular mark, a timber toe, the wooden leg, of course, stamping about in frustration as evidenced by this scattered flurry of indentations. But how to have reached this chamber in the first place? In the corner, of course, a length of rope that could easily have been affixed to that hook embedded in the wall. Now, of course, the accomplice would be able to tie the rope to the hook to open the window to lower his accomplice down the side of Pondicherry Lodge, whilst that individual clutched hold of the treasure. But what about the accomplice? How on earth was he able to get inside here? There. Now, the aperture in the ceiling. I reasoned that we had certainly no more than half an hour before the official police force trampled upon any clues that remained to be seen. Therefore, we must be swift. Watson stayed there. I clambered into the garage space. There, the bare rafters necessitated a degree of caution. But curious there. The dust had been disturbed. Another clue, a singular footprint. Of a child, certainly small enough to be. And yet we'll observe the toes are widely spread, as though it were wearing a footwear indeed, that is quite often to be found amongst the Polynesian islands. There. Another means by which this accomplice was able to gain entry. The hole in the roof. A skylight. Let us therefore say he was able to get in this way, down through the hole. He would have seen Bartholomew Sholto, and fired the thorn at him, and brought about Sholto's demise. Then he had gone across to the window, had thrown up the sash, had tied the rope to the hook in the wall, had lowered it down, had brought up this second gentleman. One of the bottles, one of the carboys had been spilt over. You will see there. The accomplice, he with the small foot, had stepped into the same. This should afford a rather useful clue to us later on in our pursuit. When the second accomplice had finally made his way up the side of the building, he was incensed at what his accomplice had done by killing Bartholomew Sholto. You will see this again by the stamping of the timber toe of the wooden leg. This individual left the way he had come, and then the rope was pulled up, flung into the corner of the room. And this curious individual, he with the child's foot, he made his escape the way he had come, across the rooftops. Now at that juncture, sadly Thaddeus Sholto appeared in the doorway. He was horrified to witness the uncanny sight of his dead brother. We also heard something of a commotion in the hallway down below. The official representative of the police force, Athelney Jones. Ah, there you are, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Lucky for you, I was in the area. What? Holmes the theorizer. Well, yes, I know. I know you helped us a little bit before in that other problem. That was luck, don't you understand? Oh, only a matter of time before my knowledge, my experience, my intellect led me to the true culprit of that robbery. Now, what do we have here? Oh dear, what do we have here? Yes, well, we appear to have gentleman dead, thorn. Ah, well, look at the state of him, look at that face, oh dear. Yes, brother, of course, Thaddeus Sholto. Officer, take Mr. Sholto away, detain him. Yes, well, Mr. Holmes, I would say that, well, it stands to reason, yes. Thaddeus Sholto had an argument with his brother Bartholomew over the treasure, killed him, and then went outside. What's that? Oh, yes, and then did the dead man get up and lock the door behind him? Oh, no. I see what you mean. There's something of a flaw in my logic. No, common sense, you see, no. Well, what's that you say? Footprint in the mold on the windowsill? Nothing to do with it, nothing to do. What can that have to do? What can that have to do with the dead man with a thorn sticking out of his neck? Concentrate, Mr. Holmes, theorizer, concentrate. What hole in the ceiling? Oh, hole in the ceiling, treasure. Yes. What's that you say? You mean there's a hole in the roof? That's how the accomplice got in here, a skylight. Opened, you say? What? Oh, you opened it. Oh, you already know about that. Oh, I see. What's that? Piece of paper tucked to the body, the sign of the four. That's got nothing to do with it. Tomfoolery designed to distract me. Take more than that to distract Athelney Jones. What?
Yes, yeah. Dart, a wooden mallet, thingamabob. Well, that's got nothing to do with it, does it? He collected Oriental artifacts, these are just some of the others, yes. Well, he might as well be Thaddeus Soto as anyone else to have killed him. I don't know anyone else, mind you. We'll place the housekeeper under arrest as well to be on the safe side. Thaddeus Soto, of course. Oh, that servant, I didn't like the look of him. Looked a bit foreign, you see. May as well arrest him also. Well, one of them's bound to have done it, eh? What's that? Yes, well, you need more of your bloody theories, won't you, to help you out this time? Not now, Anthony Jones is here. What do you mean, give me a clue? Well, go on then. Well, I reasoned it was for the best that we escape before Watson and I also were placed under arrest. However, I decided I would assist Anthony Jones by describing one of the gentlemen, his name, Jonathan Small, his right leg, missing from the knee downwards. However, this is replaced with a wooden stump, which is worn away upon the inner left-hand side. As for his left leg, he wears a boot, iron soled. The weight is placed greatly upon the inward step. He is small, wiry and active, has a sunburned face, beard and moustaches. Most certain as well that he has abrasions upon the palms of his hand. As for his accomplice, well, he is quite singular. Although I believe there are precedents already set in Senegambia and in India also, yes. I very much hope, Anthony Jones, to introduce you and Mr. Jonathan Small's friend before much longer. Friend Watson, come along, there is work to do.